Alright, so today we finally take on one of the biggest challenges I've ever taken on any car or on this channel, and that was because I blew up the transmission on this car. So if you guys don't know, I did blow up this transmission on my car if you have not been following me. But anyways, it's not that bad to swap out a transmission, but the biggest issue I had was putting a 6-speed in here versus a 5-speed that was in here before. So that was one of the biggest issues, and then many other months of waiting on parts and issues and problems that had happened. So today, let's dive into what happened and go back to the day that I blew up the transmission. Alright guys, so I have some bad news and possibly good news about the turbo Corolla. So no, these seats have nothing to do with it. They just came out of the Matrix, but I blew the transmission on this car. So literally one day I was driving to work and just minding my own business, ripping the car along, and I was just third gear, ripping it down third gear, shifted to fourth, and then it had made the worst metal grinding noises that I have ever heard. So here's some footage right when it had happened. Well, I think I blew up my trans in the Corolla. I can't. Right now I'm in gear. It is really, I can't even get in reverse right now, but it looks like it might want to go forward, but it definitely sounds like something's grinding inside the transmission. After that had happened, I literally could not move the car at all, but like first gear, impossible. Second gear, I'm literally like pulling, so I can go from third, fourth to fifth, and reverse is super bad. So when I was trying to pull this thing into the garage, I originally was trying to push this car, and I cannot move it. Like, once it's in neutral, like, there's something jamming up in the transmission that won't even let it move. So I literally, I had no other choice. Since I could not push it, I literally forced the car into reverse, and it made some of the worst noises I've ever wanted to hear from a car. So yeah, I had the tow truck guy pull. They put the car halfway, like they didn't even put the car decently into the grass, because I don't even know what they were thinking, but I literally told them the transmission, I'm pretty sure there was an issue with the transmission, and they still continued to try to like drive the car or whatever onto the grass, and they put it halfway catty cornered on the grass in the road. But so at that point I was like, that's when I wanted to try to push the car into the garage. But so the car was pretty much like right where the GR Corolla is, but facing the opposite way. So I tried to just push it because I knew that this car would go forward, but it would not go in reverse. So I originally just tried to push it and wanted to just push it this way, and then I would just drive it forward up the driveway. But I could not push it at all. Like I said, I would like push, and then it would just rock back and forth. And I think, like, because right now the e-brake is off and I'm in neutral, and like the car literally just will move like an inch and then just roll back the other way. So I was trying to do that for like 10 minutes and had no success whatsoever. So I then was like, well, and at this point too, I could not get in reverse at all. And so I ended up literally just pushing it over and just jamming it with all my might to get into reverse switch. Then you hear in this clip right here. was just slowly reversing this car, and finally got it where I could put it in first gear, and then I drove it up into the garage, and then that's where it is. So it has not moved since I brought it in here. I don't know exactly what's wrong with the car, other than motor runs fine, nothing wrong. It'll idle all day long, but it will just not go into some gears, and when it does not make good sounds. So I'm gonna assume a synchro or something like that broke, because I didn't do anything that I could think of wrong with the transmission, but as you guys know, that ever since I bought this car, I've told you there's been some weird transmission issue on this car, and I've tried literally changing everything on this car, from all the axles, clutch, flywheel, like you name it. Then I just recently bled the clutch and everything like that. I don't know if that has anything to lead to what just happened, because I was driving the car for 3-4 weeks after that had happened anyways, so I don't think it was anything to do with that. But like I said, ever since I bought this car, I've been tracing down something, and I've kind of narrowed it down to something transmission related, whether it's a bearing, input shaft, or something in the transmission, and that's what I think is wrong with this car. Right away, a piece comes right out. So something inside of this transmission definitely shattered. You see all the metallic in there. Pretty good progress. I got pretty much everything disconnected from the transmission, except for I cannot get this axle out to save my life. I probably spent a good 30 minutes trying to take that out. I got the passenger side one out. That came out with a few hits, and it came out nicely, but the driver one, I do not know what is going on. I was literally prying on it and hitting it probably for a good 20-30 minutes, and it would bounce a little bit, but it would not come out. So I don't know if that has anything to do with something with the transmission issue either or not, but it spins, so I'm not sure exactly what is holding it in, but I cannot get it out. So I'm going to try to just drop it with that axle still in there. I don't see why it wouldn't drop. The transmission wouldn't drop with it on. So, but pretty much got everything all disconnected, except for I pretty much got this motor mount disconnected, but I'm going to take it all the way out. I got this motor mount, the back motor mount, and then I think 8 bell housing bolts.
What?
8 bell housing bolts. So they should come out pretty easily. I got the starter out, I got everything, and I've been putting pretty much everything is. My trunk is just becoming a storage unit for now. So, but yeah, I got the starter, battery tray out, battery, some of the intercooling piping, intake, and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's definitely coming along. But tonight I'm going to call it a day, and then we'll start chugging along on this. Hopefully in the next couple days, we'll have this thing out.
Much later.
Alright, so after about a good 4 hours of work, I got the transmission out. Came out a lot easier this time because I kind of figured out exactly what needs to get done. So you do it more than once, things become way easier. But I did have an issue I was mentioning. I could not get this out, so I just dropped the whole transmission with the axle. So we'll try to pry that out in a little bit. Alright guys, so as you know, the Turbo Corolla, obviously we're still waiting on some things. But in the meantime, I want to get things prepped and ready for the new transmission. So what we have here is all the engine mounts that connect to the transmission. So, and we're going to be making some new custom motor mounts for this car by pretty much so I guess this is, I don't want to say old school way, but this is pretty much the most universal way you can get stiffer motor mounts on any car, is by using some of your own urethane, polyurethane, so that way you can actually stiffen it up. Because if you guys know the 10th gen Corolla, there is no aftermarket support at all for this car. So instead, we're going to use the factory OEM mounts that are pretty much worn out. I mean, I can literally flex this with my hand, so they are pretty worn out. But we're going to clean these things really good, and we got to go get some paint real quick. We'll go run out in the Matrix, get some paint, and clean these things up and make these look brand new. So that way when we're ready for the transmission, we can slap these on and get going. So let's get these things cleaned up and painted. Alright, so I'm gonna douse all these with some degreaser. And I'm also gonna be doing my battery tray too, just to try to clean that up. So I spent a good amount of time masking these things up, getting them all cleaned up. So after I did that, I got everything all ready to start painting. Zip ties for the win here, so I got everything all masked up. I'm not going to worry about any of the threaded holes on the interior. I can easily run a bolt through them and get any of the paint off of them. I just pretty much masked around all the rubber pieces, except for this. I could not unscrew this. I don't know how this is mounted, but if I get paint on it, it's not a big deal. But got everything degreased, cleaned, masked, and like I said, use zip ties to mask it up. But I'm going to let these hang out and dry just a little bit more. It happens to be a very, very windy day for some reason. I don't know why. Out of all the times I choose to paint, it's very windy. But let's go pick up some paint and then get ready to spray these down. Alright, I am back. I got some Rust-Oleum, just gloss black, just to help clean everything up. So I was thinking about going with a different color, but I didn't really think that it would be necessary because you don't even see um at least two of these. You'll probably never see the rear one, and the front one is like tucked underneath a few things. The only one you potentially would see is right here, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to modify the one anyways because the new 6-speed from the 2ZR on the 2014s and up has a slightly different mounting point. So, but I'm just painting mine, getting everything ready anyways. The only engine mount I am not doing is the one on this side because it's practically the only thing holding up the engine right now. So I don't want to let the engine fall. Obviously, I have it supported with some wood and a jack, but that's literally the only thing holding it to the car. Otherwise, everything would fall out and probably rip a whole bunch of things. So I'm not even going to bother with that one right now. Maybe in the future, I'll replace that one anyways. Alright guys, so after about a week and a half or so of waiting, we finally got the transmission for this car. I actually ordered this off of eBay. So this was actually a Canadian Corolla, so hopefully there's nothing that will not stop us from doing anything on this car. So, but with that being said, a Canadian car means snow, salt, all the other good stuff. But surprisingly, this car only had 80,000 kilometers or 55,000 miles on it. So it's probably one of the lowest mileage transmissions I could find for this car. So, like I said, with it being crusty, that's why we bought some of this aluminum brightener, cleaner, all the other good stuff. So we're going to take this out, clean this up really good, and make this look brand new before we slap it in. As well as my engine mounts. This stuff has definitely hardened up quite a bit, so that'll also be, I'll be unmasking all those, getting those all prepped and everything too. So, but let's get this thing out of the car and on the floor so we can start cleaning it. Alright, so I got the new 6-speed right here and the 5-speed right here. Just trying to take a look at a few things. I could definitely tell you the backup sensor, which I'm going to assume is right here, is completely different than this 5-speed. Uses like a manual push solenoid or whatever to tell it when it's in reverse. This does not look like the same solenoid, but I could be wrong, but they definitely don't look like the same. But I don't know, that has a plug straight on it, this has wires coming out, but who knows, they might screw right in and just need to adapt it to this. So I am actually fortunate the way they left this transmission, because they left the mounts on here, the shifter cable mounts as well. And they also have the old throwout bearing, which I have a brand new one, so we won't worry about that. But all the clutch lines are pretty much all the way up to a bracket, so that way I can actually see how I want to run my clutch lines. I'm hoping that they should be pretty similar to how this is routed. I shouldn't really need to make any new clutch lines, but we'll definitely find out once we get this closer in the car. But I mean, I'm just going to, if I do make any, this would probably become a steel braided line, so that way I can come from here and go straight to wherever the external portion is on the car now. But who knows, it might bolt up because right now, I mean, there's quite a bit of slop in here, but down here there's a flexible hose that will reach over to, like right now this uses a clutch slave, but since the clutch slave is built into the throwout bearing, it's going to be slightly different, but hopefully with what I have, we can get to work on this. So, but right now, let's just start cleaning this thing up and making this thing look as good as new. I've been cleaning this thing for probably the last 30 minutes, and I mean, all in all, it's coming out decent. It's not nearly as good as I wanted it to. I'm gonna keep going a little bit more, try to get this looking pretty good. I mean, I would probably say this right now is probably equivalent to what my transmission was. So it definitely got rid of a lot of the oxidation and everything like that, as well as cleaning all the clutch dust and everything like that inside the bell housing. There's still stuff in the nooks and crannies that, like, again, I mean, I was hoping to get this thing to actually look like really good, but I think the only way to get this to look like brand new again is to pretty much sandblast everything, which I don't have a sandblaster, and I don't really think it's worth going out of my way to do that for this transmission specifically. So, but I'm gonna keep going and probably take off little brackets like this, take off the motor mount here as well, and just get this thing as clean as possible. So, I mean, like I said, it's probably as clean as that one now, but I want this to look really good, really as good as I can. So, I mean, and there's some of the shifter linkages and stuff that I don't think I'm going to be able to get off because they're super, well, the way they're made, I don't think you can easily take them off. So, but looks like they couldn't get one of the shifter bushings off, so I got to try to get that off as well. The other shifter bushing did come off. So I got this thing pretty clean. I just took off that engine mount and I gave it a fresh coat of paint. So I got to let this dry now. And one other thing to note, when I was doing this, I was mocking up my other engine mounts. One of them will fit pretty good. The other one will not fit. Like, either two of these holes line up or that one hole lines up, as well as the transmission web, like the aluminum block. You can see there's some black paint on that one web. It's because it's hitting the actual motor mount, so definitely gonna have to figure this one out. I don't know if I'm gonna want to order the actual mounts for the 2016 Corolla or if I can try to reuse the ones I had. I thought I would been able to, but it's not looking like I'm going to. Alright, I went to go take off the shifter linkage. I don't know what you would actually call this, but I went to go take that off, and this bolt came out great. This bolt broke, and this bolt broke. So I got two broken bolts that I have to try to get out. I did try to soak it with some penetrating fluid once I found the first one, and didn't really make a difference. These things were like super corroded in there, and now I gotta try to get some extractors and actually take these out. But I'm gonna keep dousing them with a little bit of liquid rinse, and hopefully in the next day or two I can get these extractors in, and then we can try to take these out. The only reason I was going to take this out was to paint this and make it look cleaner, but didn't realize it was going to become this whole fiasco type of thing. So, but I'm going to take this out. Well, it's already out. I'm going to paint this, and we're going to hopefully get those out. Alright, you guys, so just got some more transmission parts to fix some of the issues I have. If you guys are unfamiliar with what that is, this is a key insert, so it's pretty much going to replace the threads that were supposed to be in the bolt hole that I had messed up. So what this does, we're pretty much just going to drill it open, and then I got a tap, which this is a M12 by 1.25. So we're going to drill this hole open, tap it, and then the insert should screw right in, and then this is a keyed insert, so those keys will be hammered into the actual transmission. It'll actually be stronger threads than what it was before, because this is actually a stainless insert, so it's definitely going to strengthen it up. So let's pop this out and then drill this hole open to what the spec says, and then we'll thread that in and get this thing looking perfect again. Alright, so I got the drill. I'm going to drill this hole open. This is the drill per the spec that I need, so I'm going to drill on. Alright, so I just got everything blown off, all the chips out of the hole, and made sure the insert screws in deep enough. Typically you want these to be a little bit below the surface, which it is, and then once that is done, then we will hammer these stakes down so that way they're flush with this. And now our bolts that we got will thread into that insert that we put in there. So now that we got that done, let's hammer these stakes in, and then this thing will be pretty much brand new or better than OEM. So I just got this key insert in there. Everything looks good. The new bolts that I got also screw in nicely. So that is a plus. So now this is a good thread. This one I did booger up just a little bit, but I just put a big countersink on the top of this. But the threads in there are still very usable. I also just made sure I got much longer bolts, so that way I know I'm getting good thread engagement. So now that that is pretty much good, we can paint that bracket wherever it went right here, and we'll make this look brand new again. Got all these unmasked, and they don't look too bad. There's still some tape residue that I'm not going to even bother trying to get off. I should have probably untaped these probably like shortly after. These have been sitting for about 2 weeks now, so, but they don't look terrible. They look, I mean, you're never gonna see them, but they definitely should do the job for what I need. So they pretty much are acting as like almost like an insert that you could buy for certain cars, but this is my custom made injectable insert, I guess you could say. So, but all in all, they don't look too bad. As well as I got the transmission right here, cleaned it up pretty much as I could. I don't know how much more I'm gonna actually clean up on it, but it looks a million times better than what it did. This is nice and painted, got new bolts. I put new bolts and stuff wherever I could. So now it's time to get this transmission back in this car. So hopefully it goes pretty smooth. I learned that keeping as many motor mounts off the car or off of here is the best way to do it. So I'm going to pretty much the only mount that I think I will start with is put the back one on because I don't want to deal with the back one. I'm going to drop the insert inside the subframe and then mount the back one on here. The front one and the top one can be left off because they're a little bit easier to get to when it's already mounted. So let's get this in there. Alright, so I'm not sure exactly where I had left off on my last thing, but the transmission is bolted up pretty much all the way. I need to go back and retighten up all the bell housing bolts, but this transmission bolts up directly to the 2ZR with no issues. So the only issues you start running into are motor mounts and shifter cables, which is where I'm at right now. So I do have the rear motor mount in, which is the one I purchased, which was for the EC60 transmission, so a 2014 to 2019 Corolla. And then this top mount right here was the one that came on the car, which bolted up without any issue. Well, I don't want to say without any issue because I did have to maneuver the transmission because the bolts weren't quite lining up. So I just kind of took a pretty large pry bar and just kind of pried on the transmission until the bolts lined up. So I have the rear mount bolted and the top mount bolted with minimum issues, and the front mount is the only one I do not have mounted right now because the mount that I had was for the old generation. I'm going to see if I can use it. I did already modify and add in hole because it didn't line up already, but I think they're slightly designed differently because I don't know how well you can see it, but the hole for the mount does not line up with the hole on the actual bushing. So that was where I was at. So I got to try to figure out something there, whether I can use that one or I got to purchase a new one as well. But the biggest issue that I'm having are the shifter cables. So the shifter cables, like one of them you could probably get to work, but I don't know if you can see all the way back there. I'm already like curving these lines because the 10th gen Corolla shifter cables on the 5-speed seem to be way too long because before the shifter linkage was up here somewhere and now the shifter linkage is back there, moved about maybe 4 or 5 inches. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm definitely going to have to find a set of those. I was hoping I would be able to reuse these, but I didn't want to buy a set until I actually saw that they didn't work. They would fit. It's like if I could just trim them or do something, they would work. But obviously, I don't think that's possible to do. So I got to try to yank these out of the car and source a set. I have been scrounging around Toyota's website, like several different dealerships. I did find a set after shipping and tax. It would be about $180. I might go with those, but I'm still trying to find a used set. That way I don't have to spend the amount of money on them. So, but also too, I jumped the gun and I did the clutch lines. If you guys are familiar or not familiar, these have the 10th gen have a clutch slave that goes on the top of the transmission, and then you feed in the clutch line and then you can bleed it, blah 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 blah. But these newer transmissions have the throwout bearing as the clutch slave. So everything's all built into one. So you just have, you pretty much, I don't know if you guys will be able to see it, but you pretty much have your T here, and then a clutch line branches off inside of the transmission. It's a good and a bad thing, because I have to say installation is actually pretty easy. Bleeding it, I just bled it, was pretty easy as well. But if that fails, I mean, then you pretty much have to take the whole transmission out and replace the throwout bearing. But probably if you're going to replace the slave cylinder, you might as well replace the clutch or the throwout bearing as well. But that's why I put a brand new one in there, so we should be good for probably easily 100,000 miles. But so far, everything is almost bolt up without any issues so far. Like I said, the clutch, I pretty much just disconnected it. For the clutch line, I practically did not do anything other than unbolt this. This was already unbolted from the transmission. So you just got to unbolt this hard line that pretty much bolts up at the top of the transmission. And then hopefully the transmission that you get, if you buy a used one, has all the hard lines on it. So mine did already. They're not in the best shape, but they're not leaking. So I can't ask for anything better than that. But I was literally able to just, so this is what the old transmission came with. There was that soft line right there, and then the bracket that bolts up to that. So I just pretty much undid this bracket, and then I already had this soft line that was already coming from the car, and mounted it straight to the bracket, and then just swapped the hard line from this one to that one. And then I just bled the clutch as normal. And I have a working clutch pedal. So we are like this close to getting this thing on the ground. So I'm super pumped. I do want to try to pull out these shifter cables today, so that way we can get this working pretty good. One other thing to note, I'm trying to do this without buying many parts at all. So I just want to note so far that I've bought just the transmission, and I've bought the rear mount. I guess depending on how nice the junkyard is or whoever sells the transmission to you, if they tend to leave all the motor mounts on, you would be good. But I had to buy the transmission, which was about $450. Then I bought the rear mount, which was $40. And I might have to buy the front mount, which might be another $40. So far I'm into this about $500. And if I include that mount, $550. And if I have to buy those shifter cables, it's going to be almost $200. But so $550, so I'll be around the $750 mark to get this installed in a car that never came with it. So I'm pleased, very happy with it. So hopefully everything goes good, and the transmission's good. That's still up in the air.
Thank you for calling Toyota Orlando. Bianca speaking. I'm going to direct your call.
Oh, hello. Could I speak to someone in parts, please? Oh, hello. I was seeing if you had a part available, or if you could tell me when it would be available, if I give you a part number.
What's the part number?
Hold on one second. I lost it. It is 33820-02850.
Transmission cable?
Yes.
I do not have it in stock. It would come out to $304. And let me see if I can order it. If you were to order it, there's no exact date when it would come in.
No exact date, like not a month from now, 2 months from now, nothing?
So there's one on back order, and it says there's 2 on the way to the warehouse. So whenever they get those 2, they'll send it to that person that's already waiting for it, and then they should have 1 in stock after that. But I'm not sure when they'll get in those 2.
Okay, so there's no timeline at all when those will be available?
Not exactly, no.
I did place an order of these almost a month ago already, and I still have not received any confirmation. The Toyota dealership that I ordered them from almost a month ago still has no confirmation on when these cables are actually going to be available. I also ordered like 5 or 6 other parts to complete this as well, which was like a engine mount and a bunch of other transmission related stuff like the seals and stuff, but everything's on hold until that part comes into them, and then they'll ship out the entire order, which is kind of dumb. So I'm just waiting on that right now. Hopefully something soon will show up in the meantime. Oh, and also throughout the process of this, I also pretty much got scammed from this one company right here. They were a company recommended on Facebook, and after conversating with them, everything like that, they were able to source, they were able to source a pair of shifter cables. I was telling them all about the shifter cables I needed, and then they said they found a set that was exactly what I was looking for. So I ordered it for 80 bucks, and as soon as they went to go ship it, they instantly were like, oh, there's an issue with the shipping. I'm going to need a little bit more money. And that's, at that point, I pretty much figured I had gotten scammed out of the $80. And as soon as I tried to follow up with them, I kept getting this, couldn't send anything because they pretty much blocked me on Facebook. So if you guys want to if you guys want to spam on their profile and get these people blocked, like I said, High Tech Automobiles scammed me out of $80 on this shifter cable as well, because they advertise as they're like a used automotive company, and they said they're based out of Canada, so I kind of believe them because that's where I sourced the 6-speed transmission from. So with that being said, I didn't feel like I was going to get scammed, and $80 for a used set wasn't terrible, but it obviously ended up becoming a scam. So I'm gonna see, hopefully I get my money back from my bank, but if not, I lost out 80 bucks. All right, and so as I was also probably the next following day after I had figured out I got scammed, I literally got an email from Monkey Wrench Racing saying, hey, we got one of these pairs in stock. You better order them now, otherwise they might sell out quickly. So I instantly hopped online, ordered those. 200 bucks later, I actually received them right here. So with that being said too, I also canceled the other shifter cables that I had on order from the other company. So once I was able to place the order through Monkey Wrench Racing, like I said, I canceled the shifter cables from the one Toyota that I was ordering them from, and finally was able to get all my other parts for the transmission here, as well as the shifter cables from Monkey Wrench Racing. So they are the true heroes to this right now, because without them, I don't know how long I would have been waiting for these cables. So luckily I got them, and now I can actually complete this project. So if you guys didn't know, I've literally been waiting for probably, this is 5 weeks now. I've been trying to source these cables, and they are non-existent pretty much everywhere. And I was getting to the point where I was going to modify my old cables, but then I decided, like I said, these are fairly expensive cables. If you were to try to order them again, they're like almost $500 cables for the 5-speed. And these, luckily, when I was talking to a bunch of Toyotas, they range from like 180 all the way up to like $300 and something for the 6-speed cables. So luckily I was able to keep these, so that way if I ever need to swap back, or if someone is interested in a 5-speed swap, I literally have all the parts for you to do the 5-speed swap. But now we can actually continue on with this project and get this thing done. The first box, I have ordered a few things. So I ordered new seals for the transmission. I ordered the last engine mount that I needed because I was not able to salvage the 5-speed one. These mounting holes were pretty much flipped upside down, so I was not able to use that. And then, so I got that, and then I also got the shifter. So this is the 6-speed shifter with the reverse lockout. So you could, from what I've read, you could use the 5-speed one, you just won't have the 6-speed lockout. But this was actually fairly cheap. It was like 40 bucks for the whole shifter assembly. So, but now, after about $400 more parts, we're finally able to continue on getting this done. So I want to hop onto the front engine mount, get that mounted, make sure everything's good, and then we'll move on to the shifter cables and get those in as well. Alright, so I've been spending probably the last hour or so trying to get these new shifter cables in and the shifter, and I'm running into an issue. Hopefully there's something wrong with the way I put things in, but I don't have all my gears. So the shifter won't move over to like first and second, because it'll go to third and fourth and fifth and sixth, but it will not go over anymore. So I'm not sure. I was looking up there the way I had the shifter cables connected. Everything seems fine. So I'm going to start taking apart things here to make sure everything is correct. But for some reason, like I said, it's just jamming up here. Hopefully the transmission's good, and it's just the way I assembled something, because I'm not sure why this is doing this. But let's kind of tear this down and see what's going on. About 5-10 minutes of worrying that I had broke something. Luckily it was not that. It was just me, the way I assembled this. So now, right now, it will go over, and then the reverse lockout will let it go even farther. But what had happened was this linkage right here. There's a white piece right here. That needs to make sure you're on the outside. I had it flipped on the inside. So when it would try to go forward, it was actually smacking against the shifter assembly, not letting it move. So right now I don't have the clip in here, so it kind of breaks free. But yeah, that was the issue. So luckily it's just a simple twist at 180 degrees. So let's keep chugging along and getting this thing working. I just got everything preliminary hooked up, just so that way I don't have like huge vacuum leaks. None of the clamps are tightened on the intercooling piping and stuff, but it should be good. Just have the battery mocked up here. But now let's start this and make sure our axles are moving and we can get into gear. So I filled everything up, made sure everything was looking good. So let's hop in and start this up. All right, so it's hopefully everything is working. All right, so we're in neutral. Like I said, I can't get into first or second right now, but third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and reverse almost goes in. So, all right, I'm a little nervous, but hopefully everything is good. So let's start this car. All right, well, it might be idling just a little rough, just because the turbo and the tune, but I mean, everything seems to be at least running decent. Let's try to go into gear. Hopefully we don't stall it out. So I just went into first. Let's slowly let off the clutch. Oh shit. We're spinning. That wheel's not. Alright, we were just spinning. Let me go to second. It doesn't want to go into second. So this is reverse. Alright, well, I don't want to keep the car running too long because it does not have any coolant in it. But I think something is, I need to make sure why this spindle, why both of them are not spinning, but we are so far looking good. Alright, to give a little update, the car is on the ground and it is moving, but I did have to finagle a few little things to get it to work. And one of the biggest issues that I'm having right now is I had to disconnect one of the shifter linkage because it seems like it was actually binding, trying to get into like second, third. It was binding in like half the gears. When I thought I was actually going into gear, it was actually just going into the same gear. So I don't know why I don't have enough. I don't know if that bracket got bent and it's just not allowing it to, but once I don't have the C-clip that hooks the actual cable together, it actually has enough wiggle room to go into all the gears. So now with that, now I can fix the coolant leak, which I already did, but I didn't fix the coolant leak to the turbo because that fitting behind the turbo is a pain to get to. I tried to attempt to get it. So instead, I'm gonna bypass the coolant on the turbo for now. And I just spliced my heater lines back in with a section of that pipe. So now we shouldn't have any coolant leaks, so we can add coolant to the system and bleed it, and then we should be able to go for a quick test drive on this once we get this all buttoned up. I do need to find a shift knob because the shift knob that I have originally does not work. It's I think that release for the lockout for 6 or reverse is interfering with that original 5-speed. So, but let's find a knob, get this started, and then let's try to pull this thing out and do a small road test. I'm not sure where I had left off with the last part of this video, but I did end up taking it out for a test drive, and the transmission is working, but I'm having some issues getting into first and second gear. My workaround for that was disconnecting this actual piece from the shifter cable, so that way it seemed like it was actually binding up. So once I got rid of this, it loosens up and gives me more adjustability on the shifting, but then it makes it really hard to find first and second gear. But after messing with it a little bit, I am able to get into all the gears, but now I got to figure out why I have to do this and why it's binding up. I have a feeling that it might be like a bent bracket or something bent, and it's just not quite lining up, but let me dig into it and see if we can figure this issue out. So let's hop in, start this car, and see what happens. I bent the bracket a little bit to see, and things went together a little bit better, but I kind of kept things just hand tight and didn't actually tighten everything that much. So let's just see if we can get into gear and move around. Hold on. My car's completely dead. She's alive. I mean, it's driving. We'll see how consistent it is when I come to a stop. But I do need to figure out, I need the gears to be predictable, obviously, so I can drive it. Because I think that's second now. But it's like I really have to aggressively put it in first gear, or neutral, Alright, well, I'm back. Like I said, it's just very weird that it doesn't easily want to return back to neutral. Oh, I could do, like, something else too, I never even thought about it, but I did the motor mounts, and so many more things rattle in this car. So, I really think it definitely did stiffen some things up. There is some adjustment here, so I'm not sure. I'm gonna take a look at this too and see, because there is like a threaded portion on this, so I'm gonna see what that does. But that's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So it's like it needs a little bit more drastic over, because it hits the stop on here. So I need to try to adjust something over here as well. So let me dig more into this and see if it fixes the issue. Alright guys, so I think I finally got it. So it definitely did seem, I did readjust the bracket, and I actually bent it a little bit because it didn't look completely straight on the one side, so I ended up just hitting with a hammer and straightening it out. But that really didn't change anything up there. The biggest adjustment that I noticed is this piece right here. There's like a screw on it and everything, and you can twist it and untwist it, and that actually changes the engagement point of how far over you have to come before you go into like first gear. So it's actually very interesting. But now, because before what was happening was I would push it all the way over and then try to get into first gear, but if you see where first gear actually is, it's slightly over, and if you adjust that one way, you'll end up actually getting into reverse without even lifting it up. And so you got to adjust it the other way, so that way you don't have to go over as much, and then it will fall into first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, so, and then reverse. So everything is working perfectly as this should be. So I am super happy that this is finally running. There are a few things I need to button up, but I am so glad that this thing is running and driving. So it's literally been sitting in my garage for the last 3 months on jack stands, waiting for all this transmission stuff to be done, and it's so fun to drive this car. I do want to bring it back to the dyno and get everything all straightened out, but for now, I mean, it feels pretty good with the 210 horsepower wheel horsepower it has, and it makes beautiful noises. So I mean, that is a plus. So let's button everything up and get this thing ready to be roadworthy again. So, but I'm just glad that shifting into all 6 gears is working phenomenal. So the interior is finally put back together. I mean, everything looks pretty much good. The only thing is I need a new shift knob. So that was something I didn't even think about. I have the 5-speed shift knob here, but I can't even screw it all the way down because then it interferes with the reverse lockout. So I need to get a new one, but other than that, everything is bolted up, looking good, running good, no check engine lights, no nothing like that. So we are good to go. All right, you guys, so as you guys saw, this thing is running amazing. Everything is looking good. It's going into every gear, so I don't know. So I would definitely say this is a success. So doing the 11th gen 6-speed swap to a 10th gen is pretty much a complete bolt-on. I had no modifications done to anything. So just making sure you get the correct parts for the correct model year and everything like that makes a big difference. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are new, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.